So this new tax announcement, the Conservatives announced it last week. You actually announced it in August. What's new about it?
I think what's new about this debate on tax cuts is not who's promising tax cuts. Lots of people are doing that left, right and centre now. I mean, David Cameron, promised the moon on a stick last week. Lots of pots more money for the NHS and tax cuts for everybody, but didn't spell out who paid. What we're saying is, in our first instalment, our first step towards this magic goal of no one paying any income tax on the first £12,500 they earn, we will fund for it fairly.
And your big sell on this going into the election after a tough time politically in terms of the pain you've taken in the polls will be that you delivered more or less the manifesto commitment on the income tax allowance already.
Well, more actually, rather than less. I mean, it's very important to remember this because obviously I'm constantly, you didn't deliver on one of your manifesto commitments. Actually, on our front page, I'm sure you have a well-thumbed copy of the Liberal Democrat manifesto on your bedside table. Do you? Two next to well, there you go. There's a confession. And you'll see that on the front page we said that we would raise the point at which people start paying income tax from where we found it, which is £6,400 to £10,000. And by the way, what's so interesting to now see the Conservatives kind of plagiarising idea on this was that in all of the negotiations I've done the last 4 years, I had to fight tooth and nail against David Cameron and George Osborne, who kept saying to me privately, this is your tax cut, and if you want this, Nick, you're going to have to do this, that and the other.
They said it was your tax cut.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yes, so constantly.
Conservatives say that the £12,500 allowance is your tax cut.
What I'm referring to is all the budget negotiations over the last several years. Getting it up to 10,000, 10,500 was something I had to do. I had to press very hard.
How much money did the VAT raise?
Well, the VAT raised roughly similar amounts.
Exactly the same amount. So you've taken from people's wallets and given it back in their pay packets, but you don't want to take the hit for the VAT rise, but you do want the electoral gain.
Be very open. I mean, very open about the fact, actually, unlike the Conservatives, that what we can't pretend any longer is that you can balance the books by only gouging out more and more money from public spending alone, that you can only ask the working age poor to pay for the mistakes of the past. That tax, of course, plays a role in that. Now, with the VAT change,
entirely cynical move to raise VAT at the beginning and give away exactly the same amount at the end of the Parliament. It's just recycling money from the same people.
No, that is not. That is absolutely not the case. In fact, if you look at the distributional analyses of what we've done over the last several budgets, we've done it very fairly, even with the VAT change.
OK, well, let's talk about political errors. One of your most senior backbenchers, a former minister, Jeremy Brown, has described even the very slogan of this conference as kind of mitigating other parties, stronger economy than Labour, fairer than the Tories. You're a party of mitigation, not a party of majority.
Jeremy's talking completely, at the back of his head. He doesn't read the slogan. It's all about delivering opportunity for everyone. What is more liberal than opportunity? That is what we're about. How do you deliver that? Well, you have to deliver that by getting this balance right between a strong economy and a fair society. So, dare I say it, Jeremy Brown, maybe he just only read the first bit of the slogan and omitted actually the whole point of it, which is that we want opportunity for everyone.
Well, there's a game of change in the country and there's also a game of politics. If I tell you now, I could have told you in 2010 where you'd be in the polls and if that would remain at 7%, you still would have said yes.
10 times over yes, 100 times, 1,000 times over yes. Yeah, I'll tell you why. Look, the Liberal Democrats, we're a political party. We're not a think tank. We're not a sort of, discussion group. We want to change this country for the better. You can't change this country for the better unless you're prepared to endure the brickbats and all the insults and all that kind of stuff. And yes, but get your hands dirty.
Why have you personally changed your position on airport expansion in the southeast?
No, I haven't. I've always been very hostile to plans for the expansion of Heathrow for all the reasons you'll be familiar with, just where it's located. I care about making sure that we remain the green, sustainable economy. The question then is a rather technical one, is can you do that given those very significant advances now in engine technology, in making sure that in making aeroplanes lighter and more fuel efficient and less polluting? Can you operate within the strict parameters of our climate change commitments, but at the same time also somewhere make sure that air capacity is reformed and, if necessary, expanded in order to make sure that our economy continues to be an open one and well connected to the rest of the world. That's the circle we're trying to square.
Will you be encouraging the Prime Minister to take part in TV debates?
Yes, of course he should. I think this foot dragging from the Conservatives is just getting a bit boring now. I mean, let's just get on with it. We had the TV debates last time. People enjoyed them. I think they liven up the whole thing. They're actually quite good fun. Honestly, I don't think the Tories should, either come clean. If they want to run scared, then they should come clean and say they don't want to do them. but not this endless kind of ducking and weaving. I think people want the TV debates, and the more people can see how the leaders measure up against each other, the better.